Sorry? Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabala Bhagiri Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tiram Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabala Bhagiri Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Praishvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir bhavati naistiki. We are reading this morning from chapter 69, Narada's visit to Dwarka, from the 10th canto, verses number 18 through 24. So is it all right? We just read the translations and then 24 we'll read in detail? Okay. Translation, verse number 18. Now, Narada says, I have seen your feet, which grant liberation to your devotees, which even Lord Brahmā and other great personalities of unfathomable intelligence can only meditate upon within their hearts, and which those who have fallen into the well of material existence resort to for deliverance. Please favor me so that I may constantly think of you as I travel about. Please grant me the power to remember you. Purport. Lord Krishna had asked Narada Muni, what can we do for you? And here Narada answers. Narada Muni is a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, and thus his request is sublime. So we remember Narada accepted the worship from Lord Krishna, who bathed his feet and offered him any kinds of service, any kind of facility. So this was Narada's response. Please just allow me to remember you. Text 19. Narada then entered the palace of another of Lord Krishna's wives, my dear king. He was eager to witness the spiritual potency possessed by the master of all masters of mystic power. There he saw the Lord playing at dice with his beloved consort and his friend Uddhava. Lord Krishna worshipped Narada by standing up, offering him a seat, and so on. And then, as if he did not know, asked him, when did you arrive? What can needy persons like us do for those who are full in themselves? In any case, my dear Brahman, please make my life auspicious. Thus addressed, Narada was astonished. He simply stood up silently and went to another palace. Purport. In Krishna, Srila Prabhupada explains, when Narada arrived at the second palace, quote, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. Narada understood that Lord Krishna was simultaneously present in both places, or both palaces, performing different activities, so he simply left the palace silently, in great astonishment over the Lord's activities. Text 23. This time Naradaji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father, petting his small children. From there he entered another palace and saw Lord Krishna preparing to take his bath. Purport. This translation is from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that in virtually all the palaces Narada visited, Lord Krishna worshipped and honored him. And now text 24. Juvantam cha vitagnagnin yajantam panchabhir makai bojayantam dvijan kvapi bunjanam avasheshitam Juvhanam cha vitagnagnim yajantam panchabhir makai bojayantam dvijan kvapi bhunjanam avisheshitam. Please chant. Jilvantam cha nivagnani Bojayantam dvijan kwapi Bhunjanam avisheshitam. Juvantam cha vitagnagnin. Yajantam panchabir makai. Bojayantam dvijan kwapi. Bhunjanam avisheshitam. Matajis. Juvantam cha vitagnagnin. Yajantam panchabir makai. Bojayantam dvijan kwapi. Junjantam avisheshitam. Junjantam cha vitagnagnin. Jayantam dvijan kwapi. Bhunjanam avisheshitam. Before we go on, anyone have any idea what Krishna is doing here? The Agni. He's doing a yajna. Yep. Panchabir makai. There's 5 kinds of sacrifices. And Bojayantam. And Bhunjanam. He's feeding. He's feeding Bojayantam, and then he's eating the remnants, yeah. Okay, we'll do the synonyms. Juvantam, offering oblations. Cha, and Vita Agnin, to the sacrificial fires. Yajantam, worshipping. Panchabi, 5. Makai, with the obligatory rituals. Bhajayantam, feeding. Dvijan, brahmanas. Kwapi, somewhere. Bhunjanam, eating. Avisheshitam, remnants. Translation. In one place, the Lord was offering oblations into the sacrificial fires. In another, worshiping through the 5 Maha-yagyas. In another, feeding brahmanas. And in yet another, eating the remnants of food left by brahmanas. Purport. The 5 Maha-yagyas, or great sacrifices, are defined as follows. Pattohomas chatitinam saparya tarpanam bali. Reciting the Vedas. Offering oblations unto the sacrificial fire, waiting on guests, making offerings to the forefathers, and offering a share of one's food to living entities in general. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows on these sacrifices. In another palace, Krishna was found performing the Pancha Yajna sacrifice, which is compulsory for a householder. This yajna is also known as Pancha Suna. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone, specifically the householder, is committing 5 kinds of sinful activities. When we receive water from a water pitcher, we kill many germs that are in it. Similarly, when we use a grinding machine or take foodstuffs, we kill many germs. When sweeping the floor or igniting a fire, we kill many germs. When we walk on the street, we kill many ants and other insects. Consciously or unconsciously, in all our different activities, we are killing. Therefore, it is incumbent upon every householder to perform the Pancha Suna sacrifice, to rid himself of the reactions of such sinful activities. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, in his commentary on this verse, again points out that all the different times of the day were occurring simultaneously in Lord Krishna's palaces. Thus, Narada saw a fire sacrifice, a morning ritual, at about the same time he saw Lord Krishna feeding the Brahmins and accepting the remnants, a noontime activity. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This raises the question about the relative connection. What is the connection of the Vedic rituals and our practice of bhakti? So it's so nice to be here in the Vrindavan Dham to discuss this topic. When we go through these 5 rituals, these 5 yagyas, reciting the Vedas is something that we do as devotees. It's especially wonderful here in the Dham. We attend fire yagyas whenever they occur, ceremonies, weddings, initiations. We give charity, we do the other things. We don't worship our forefathers in the traditional way. Why? Because like Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offered a benediction by Lord Nrsingadev, he asked just for this one thing: please deliver my sinful father. But Lord Nrsingadev said, that's already done. Many generations, past, present, and future, are all liberated by the devotees' practice of Krishna consciousness. So in general, we don't have to worry about these things. We greet guests nicely, we give charity, but the existence, our very existence in this world brings with it sinful reactions. So these yagyas are meant to reduce the effects, eliminate the effects. But there are so many examples in our line of great acharyas who did not bother with these rituals. Srila Prabhupada cites Madhavendra Puri as one example. Madhavendra Puri wrote in his beautiful prayer that I am saying goodbye to my 3 prayers daily. I'm saying goodbye to my 3 baths daily. My dear forefathers, my dear demigods, I'm sorry I have no time for you. Now, wherever I sit, I just remember the lotus feet of the descendant of the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna, and thus I am delivered from all sinful reactions. So I think that shall be sufficient for me. In our line, we have the roots in the Vedic tradition, and we have all of these rituals, and yet they are not necessary for the bhakta. I was fortunate to be here in 1975 when Srila Prabhupada opened Krishna Balaram Mandir. And of course, as we all know, he brought in the Brahmins from South India to perform all the rituals for the installation of the deities.
Our 50th anniversary is coming this year, just let people on the internet know.
Yes, this year, April, will be the 50th anniversary.
April 1st to the 6th, we're celebrating 50th anniversary of opening Krishna Balaram Mandir.
April 1st through 6th, 2025, in Vrindavan. Please come. Now, a word from our sponsor. Okay, sorry.
We'll give you my upper shot. Impetus.
So Srila Prabhupada, because the idea of Western Vaishnavas was such a novelty, he invited these very Pakka South Indian Brahmins to perform the ritual right down here in the courtyard. And they had initially asked for dakshina of that all the utensils had to be made of gold, and then afterwards they would be given to them as dakshina. So Prabhupada declined that offer. So they compromised, held the ritual. It was very elaborate. And afterwards Srila Prabhupada said, actually, it would have been sufficient to chant Hare Krishna. But we need to show the local people that we have some allegiance, some adherence to our tradition, in spite of being foreigners. So the quality of the Vedic rituals is unity. In other words, they always have to be done perfectly. They have to be the same. I wanted to talk a little bit about unity and diversity this morning. So the Vedic rituals are so precise that there has to be a referee Brahmana to make sure that everything is chanted just right. There's no room for improvisation. Everything has to be just so. That kind of unity is decried in the Gita. In his conversation with Arjuna, Krishna derides the idea of having to do everything according to strict Vedic principles. Why? Because for one thing, Arjuna has cited this as a reason for not fighting. if I fight, then our generation will be wiped out, and there will be no one to offer pinda, to be offering food to the forefathers. So our family tradition will be destroyed. So in response to this, Krishna makes a number of statements about the position of the Vedas in terms of Arjuna's dilemma. Anyone remember some of these statements? What are some of the things that Krishna says about the Vedas in the Gita? Yes, Trigunya Vishaya Veda. The Vedas deal mainly with the three modes of material nature, therefore rise above them. What else does he say? What is that? Flowery language, yes. The Vedas are full of flowery language that attract men of small intelligence. They're attracted by these rituals because it gives them a chance to gradually progress. But again, it's for lesser intelligence. What does he say? When you pass out of the dense forest of delusion in which you are presently situated, what will happen? You become indifferent, yes, to all you have heard, the shruti, or all that you will hear, the smṛtiḥ. All of this will become nirvedam, not important. You'll be callous to it. Then even later in the 15th chapter, Krishna says that the banyan tree, this illusory material world, has leaves which are composed of what? Of the Vedic hymns, right? So in so many ways, Krishna minimizes the importance of the Vedas, in spite of us being in this Vedic tradition. Again, the unity is one of these reasons. It does not allow for the individuality that we all possess. So how about for us then, in Krishna consciousness? Where do these rituals appear? What importance are they? How do we reconcile our practice? So as we mentioned, Madhavendra Puri and many acharyas say, I don't need these things now that I have bhakti. And at the same time, we honor these things. We honor the rituals, we honor them, we perform them where possible, where necessary. But the diversity ultimately comes out because we are rising above what the Vedas present. The Vedas are a way to gradually present. The Vedic rituals gradually promote us to a position of being eligible for bhakti. But by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the disciplic succession, we can go right to the point of surrender to Krishna. So in that surrender to Krishna then brings out the natural diversity in the living beings. Yesterday, Mukunda Datta Prabhu was talking about how Krishna has no business but to enjoy. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Krishna has no business to enjoy. So look what he does. He creates unlimited expansions of himself. Unlimited expansions of himself. So, and empowers each and every one of them to bring him pleasure in a unique way. Oh, we'll get to that later. Okay, thank you. So each and every living being has a unique way of pleasing Krishna. Isn't that amazing? I mean, if you were God, would you consider doing something like that? Let me just make unlimited living entities, each to bring me pleasure in a unique way. So Krishna does that. And our journey of self-realization is just to come to the point of finding out what is our unique way of pleasing Krishna, distinct from anyone else. As we go through our Krishna conscious lives and the years go by, more and more we discover those things that bring us tremendous joy in Krishna's service. And it's not the same for everybody. It's very, very different. Sometimes devotees try to push one particular type of service as the very best, as the all in all. In 1975 in Atlanta, a number of devotees, we were gathered together who were doing book distribution. And Srila Prabhupada was giving darshan to a group of book distributors. So one of them asked a loaded question. He said, Prabhupada, how can we please you in the best way? Of course, what was he expecting to hear? Distribute my books, yes. But Prabhupada wasn't taking the bait. He said, by loving Krishna. If you love Krishna, I am pleased. So what is love? Love means something that we can do that is timeless, for which we have no inhibitions, for which we feel no sense of ego or sense of pressure. We just love doing it, whether it's chanting or reading or worshiping the deities or cooking or managing or any number of services that we enjoy. The individuality comes out in this way. You know, sometimes people look at devotees and think that we are rather homogeneous. We all read the same books, we all chant the same mantras, we wear the same type of clothes. They feel very superficially that we're all the same. This is a great illusion, as those of us who live amongst devotees know. Devotees are very diverse personalities. My friend Badrinarayan Maharaj was once visited at the temple by his mother, and he was in his office working, and somehow no one told him she was there waiting. So she sat outside his office in the courtyard for an hour, just waiting. Finally he came out and saw her there. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. I'm sorry I kept you waiting. She said, no, it's all right. I was here watching all the people. And son, if you ever want to write a novel, you have the characters. You have the characters. Yes, after seeing all the devotees, all these individual devotees. Yes, we chant the same mantras, but with individual inflection and meaning. Like we all say Hari Bol, right? Hari Bol. So Hari Bol can mean hello, Hari Bol. It can mean goodbye, Hari Bol. It can mean congratulations, Hari Bol. It can mean a warning, Hari Bol. So all of the diversity comes out, even amongst the unity that we share. So in the course of our lives, we find those things we love to do, and then we do them for Krishna. That brings us great, great joy. For me, 25 years ago, I discovered that I like to write poetry for Krishna. There was a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to one of our senior godbrothers. He had published a book of a devotee's poetry. Of course, devotees are supposed to be poetic. That's one of the 26 qualities of a devotee. So this particular devotee had written some original poetry, and the senior devotee published it. Prabhupada wrote him a scathing letter. He said, "Why have you wasted this paper and ink on printing this nonsense?" Then he said, "If you want to write poetry, then study a chapter of Krishna book in depth and then put that into poetry." So he gave some concession for that. So that's what I have done in this chapter 69 of the 10th canto. I'd like to share it with you this morning. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to read. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Can we share? Okay. And please, you can follow along here. Okay, I think we lost the plot. Okay. Okay. This will serve as a little bit of a review. We're about halfway through the chapter. A little bit of a review and a little bit of a... I don't want to spoil the plot, but we'll have an overview of the whole chapter. When Narada the mystic heard that Krishna had been wed so many times, an inspiration filled his saintly head. "I must observe how Krishna in a single body gives sufficient time to 16,000 wives. How does he live?" When Narada reached Dwaraka, the sounds of birds and bees filled up the parks and greens of that municipality. As swans and cranes sang out refrains on lotus-covered lakes, the sage found temples, streets, and houses built without mistakes. A web of spotless boulevards traversed the smooth terrain. Festoons and trees lined arteries and kept out sun and rain. 900,000 palaces lined brilliant avenues, each marble mansion trimmed in silver set with rows of jewels. A certain lovely area of Dwarka stood out. The sage saw this was Krishna's own domain without a doubt. As Vishvakarma's masterpiece, where gods were often seen, its 16,000 palaces were home to Krishna's queens. The palaces had coral pillars set with gems that shone. The walls were decked with sapphires, pearls, and other precious stones. The sage walked in a palace and saw maidservants who wore expensive jeweled lockets as they floated through their chores. The well-dressed palace guards allowed the sage to freely roam. He noticed that the ornate palace rooftops were the home of dancing, joyous peacocks who were pleased and cried aloud as they mistook the palace incense smoke for thunderclouds. When Narada saw Krishna, Krishna's wife with yak-tail fan was fanning him, despite the 1,000 maids at her command. Lord Krishna, seeing Narada, arose and touched his feet. With folded palms he bowed and offered Narada his seat. Delighted with his guest, Lord Krishna bathed his holy feet and put the water on his head. Although he is complete within himself, Lord Krishna showed how one receives a saint. Aware of Krishna's purpose, Narada made no complaint. When all the proper rituals of welcome were complete, Lord Krishna spoke to Narada in phrases nectar sweet. "O Master, are there any goods or deeds we may provide?" Saint Narada was smiling as he thoughtfully replied, "Almighty Lord, you rule the worlds. You're everybody's friend. Yet you subdue the rogues and thieves who constantly offend. I only ask your blessings and the power to recall your lotus feet forever. I want nothing else at all." The saintly guest excused himself and went outside to see still further demonstrations of Lord Krishna's potency. Inside the next large palace, he saw Krishna playing dice with Uddhava. Surprised to see him, Krishna said, "How nice." The Lord continued, "When did you arrive? I'm very pleased to have an unexpected guest with saintly qualities." The Lord seemed unaware of their encounter just before. Surprised, the sage said nothing, took his leave, and went next door. In this abode, he found the Lord in warm parental mood. In others, he was bathing, saying prayers, and serving food. In others, he was holding morning sacrifice, and yet in others, he behaved as if the sun already set. The Lord engaged in sword practice in one palatial home, where elsewhere riding elephants, and elsewhere near his throne at rest while nearby poets sang his praise. The sage observed the Lord consulting, eating, playing sports, and being served. The Lord was somewhere giving cows to elevated priests, and elsewhere he was listening to Vedic histories. In one palace, the Lord engaged in joking with his wife, while elsewhere holding rituals enriching family life. In one palace, Lord Krishna meditated on himself. Since he is God, how could he meditate on someone else? He served his elders elsewhere. Somewhere else, he planned for war while planning pious peacemaking with Balaram next door. Sage Narada saw Krishna make arrangements for his sons and daughters to wed brides and grooms approved by everyone. He saw the Lord send out some couples, others he brought back for festive celebrations with the crowds they would attract. Sometimes Lord Krishna worshipped gods, while sometimes he'd erect fine gardens, wells, and temples to increase public respect. He'd mount a handsome Sindhi horse and ride off to pursue the fearsome forest animals as kings would sometimes do. The sage observed the Lord don clothes of ordinary kind and walk the streets to understand the common person's mind. All-knowing Krishna incognito, kings may be required to do such things, but not the Lord. So Narada inquired, "By studying your countless mystic potencies firsthand, it's clear to me you far exceed what I can understand. Would you be kind and bless me with an everlasting tour to loudly sing the glories that are so distinctly yours?" Lord Krishna said, Dear Narada, I sense that you are disturbed. My actions simply show how one should live within this world. You saw me worship gods, and when you came, I worshipped you. I did all this to demonstrate what mankind needs to do. Because I bathed your lotus feet, you're feeling some distress. Although I'm God and you're my son, was that erroneous? For sons to touch their fathers with their feet shows disrespect, but if his son climbs in the father's lap, will he object? In every palace, Narada saw Krishna's matching form engaged in every duty pious householders perform. This vision was a special gift to Narada that day, and as the sage departed, he was thoroughly amazed. While keeping 16,000 queens romantically inclined, Lord Krishna mimicked human life and helped improve mankind. If someone chants or hears about Lord Krishna's daily deeds, his quest for love of God is surely destined to succeed. So, Hare Krishna. So here is the diversity. Everywhere it's Krishna in the middle, and yet everywhere something different is going on. So this is unity in diversity. All of us are putting Krishna at the center, and all of us have our own respective ways of expressing that. So Srila Prabhupada said that this unity in diversity should be the annual theme of the GBC meeting in Mayapur. Every year, the devotees from all over the world should come together and discuss unity in diversity, how we can present Krishna consciousness in our different places with the same adherence to the disciplic succession, to parampara. This is an interesting dichotomy for many of us. I have been preaching in the West for many years, and where do we draw the line as far as what we can present from Vedic culture and what we don't present? So Rupa Goswami says, Yena tena prakarina mana Krishna naveshayat. Here in India, we can be very forthright with the tradition, and the more we adhere to the tradition, the more people like us. Yeah. I remember, in fact, when Krishna Balaram were installed, Raman Reti was way out in the boonies. And many of us were thinking, who will ever come here? It was so far from Vrindavan, you had to walk a kilometer to Fogal Ashram just to get a rickshaw if you wanted to go and visit the temples. So, do we have this problem now? No.
We have other problems.
The temple is appreciated because of its adherence to the tradition. And yet in the West, if we present the tradition too strongly, then people become averse. In India, ISKCON, the institution, has great respect. But in the West, not only ISKCON, but all religious institutions are going down in popularity. In like 20, 30, 40 years ago, 75% of Americans belonged to a church. Now today it's less than 50%. And more people just want to be spiritual without being religious. So if we present, well, here's our Vedic institution, they say, no, thank you. But if we say, here is the science of spiritual life, just add Krishna, and you don't have to change anything outside of yourself. Just add Krishna, just like Srila Prabhupada did on 26 2nd Avenue. Then people can take it and appreciate it. See, so the less Vedic we are, the more people appreciate. Here, the more Vedic we are, the more people appreciate. So, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about this phenomenon. Chaitanya Charitamrita is really the mature fruit of Prabhupada's writing. He started Bhagavatam here in Vrindavan before he had ever been outside of India. And then in the successive cantos of the Bhagavatam, he was writing from that experience. And then the Chaitanya Charitamrita is not only ripe with experience, but dealing with the very subject of the Sankirtan movement, as Lord Chaitanya spread it. So in one purport, he writes that when introducing Krishna consciousness, one has to consider time, place, and circumstance. And one would not teach Krishna consciousness in countries like America or Germany or England or Australia or China in the same way you would teach it in India. He said if we try to impose one set of cultural values on another society, it is impossible. That was a word Prabhupada did not like, remember? When they said it would be impossible to publish Chaitanya Charitamrita in 2 months, he said, impossible is what? Yes, but there it is in this very purport. He's saying it is impossible to imply one set of cultural values in another part of the world. So again, just like the practice of bhakti is above the Vedic rituals, so Krishna consciousness is above Vedic culture. Vedic culture is a great asset for those to develop Krishna consciousness. And our practical experience is that when Westerners take to Krishna consciousness, they will find their own level of comfort in practicing strict Vedic practices. Some people will like to wear dhotis and saris, some won't. But the same groups of people can chant Hare Krishna and have kirtan and share in appreciating Prabhupada's books and movement. So this is the unity and diversity is just meant for that purpose. It is meant to allow us to present Krishna consciousness all over the world in a relevant way and attract people without cultural baggage. Here in 1975, ISKCON was exploding in the West, and India was Timbuktu. If you had to go to India, it was very austere, it was very difficult, and all the action was happening in Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, Toronto, Sydney. That's where all the fun and the dynamic growth was going on. So now the opposite is true. Here in India, the growth is just amazing, unbelievable. And the prestige and the power and the impact of the institution is profound. And in the West, it is growing, but very slowly, very slowly. So sometimes people think this is because you're not Vedic enough in the West. You're too watered down. But in fact, the opposite has been proven to be true, that the more we just allow people to come and add Krishna to their lives, the more people can take it up. The more we treat bhakti as a spiritual science and not as a religion, the more people can appreciate it and take it up. So bhakti is universal in that respect, and ISKCON is unique in that respect. There are so many Hindu institutions all over the world who cater to the Indian diaspora and do not really deal with local populations. But ISKCON is unique. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Yaridaha tarika Krishna upadesh maragya guru hoy taradesh. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, tell them about Krishna and try to deliver your local area. That was Lord Chaitanya's mission. In fact, Prabhupada quoted that verse over 200 times in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the most frequently quoted verses. So the unity and diversity is possible under this banner of the institution that Prabhupada created, this unique institution of which he is the founder Acharya. That means, that implies, there'll be many Acharyas all over the world, but Prabhupada's the unique founder Acharya. He said that our austerity was to work in a cooperative way. Right? This is Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel. The other day I said to someone, it's the age of quarrel. He said, no, it's not. What are you talking about? So working in a cooperative way in this institution is a great challenge. It's a great challenge. Unity and diversity. Sometimes, seeing the difficulty of this challenge, people want to spin off and do their own thing. Too much trouble to work in an institution. I'll just start my own institution. I'll just work independently. And those devotees are very sincere, and Krishna can reciprocate with them with money, with influence, with book points. And yet there's always a little something missing, you know? Even though there may be success in certain levels, there's something missing in the heart that everybody knows it was Prabhupada's desire to work in a cooperative way, as difficult as that is. As difficult as it is. That was Prabhupada's desire. Just like another symptom of Kali Yuga is divorce. So many families end up in divorce, and the children of those families really only want one thing. They just want mom and dad to be together. Mom and dad may lavish gifts and money and trips on the child, but in his heart, the child just wants a united, loving family. So there's always something missing for that child. In the same way, Prabhupada wanted us to work together. We may say, well, by working outside of the institution, I can do so many nice things, Prabhupada. So this is like when the guru asks for a glass of water, and the over-intelligent disciple brings a glass of milk. But Gurudev, milk is so much better than water. But the Guru asked for water. So Prabhupada asked for cooperation. That was the one thing he wanted. So when we are so blessed to meet Srila Prabhupada again, what would we rather say? Prabhupada, there were problems in ISKCON, so I left. Or, Prabhupada, there were problems in ISKCON, so I tried to fix them. How would we like to present ourselves to Srila Prabhupada? It's difficult. It's difficult, but doing something that's difficult is the hallmark of our founder Acharya, and therefore the inheritance, the legacy for all of his followers. So working in a cooperative way will please Srila Prabhupada in the best way, even if it's difficult. There's a story of two frogs that fell into a vat of milk that was on the stove. And they tried and tried to get out. They couldn't get out. So one frog said, it's hopeless, and he just drowned. But the other frog kept kicking and kicking and kicking, and eventually the milk started to form into chunks of butter. And then that butter became large enough that the frog could get on the chunk and hop out of the pot. So it's hard. It's hard to work cooperatively, but we keep kicking and trying. And then even the impossible things will become possible by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Srila Prabhupada's desire. This is why he formed this international society. So let us honor the diversity that exists among ourselves and keep the unity of pleasing Krishna always as our GPS, first and foremost. This is the great challenge and great opportunity for all of devotees. So we talked about this morning about the Vedic rituals, how they have to be so perfect, how they create unity, but they lack diversity, how we experience diversity in bhakti, how this diversity was illustrated so beautifully in this chapter, where every single palace, Krishna was doing something different. And how our austerity in ISKCON is to work in a cooperative way and please our founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any discussion now? Questions? Panchagoda Prabhu is famous all over the world for asking the best questions in ISKCON.
People become attracted to Krishna consciousness by Prabhupada's books and the society, and some they come to Vrindavan and see many flavors of Krishna consciousness, many sadhus, many organizations, many different types of teachings, many holy places. So sometimes when you go to a like ice cream store, many flavors, you want to try all the different flavors. You don't want to be just limited to one. And sometimes they think that, ISKCON's a Western, from the Westerners, a new thing, unless you take the age-old descendants of the Goswamis. I don't know how they became descendants of the Goswamis, because Goswami doesn't have any descendants. The Goswami. And I'm not criticizing, but I'm just saying that very easily people lose their strength and their chastity and their resolute determination to follow Prabhupada without cutting corners and watering things down. So how do we deal with that attraction. This, we have Radhakund, Barsana, Govardhan, many beautiful things in Vrindavan and many sadhus, but people sometimes sway away from the Prabhupada's strict and very disciplined.
Yes, there's an old expression that you should stay with the one who invited you to the dance, right? A cultured person, if they're invited to a dance, they stay with their date. They don't get into the dance and say, okay, see you later, let me find someone else to dance with. What would anyone outside of India know about Krishna without Srila Prabhupada? So the character of fidelity and loyalty is the best offering we can make to our spiritual master. This was happening even in the early days of ISKCON in India. And it's, as you put it nicely, cutting corners. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the Mayavadis. The Mayavadis say, chant this mantra and you become God. We say, chant this mantra and become the eternal slave of God. In terms of marketing, they have a much better product, right? So the idea of getting a shortcut, of bypassing the requirements, coming right to the topmost level of bhakti, it is appealing, but it doesn't work. Because the foundation of bhakti is what? Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadhana. Bandhan me Savadhana Mate. That my Guru's lotus feet are the abode of bhakti. So we have, Prabhupada is our preeminent Siksha Guru for all of us, and he's given his instruction in this matter. I hope that's all right.
Thank you.
Ishwar Prabhu.
So, talking of about cooperation, so a person can say that Srila Prabhupada, he tries to cooperate, work with his god brothers in Gaudiya Math, but they were not interested. They were giving him a lot of hard time. So he formed his own society, ISKCON. So how can we say that unless you really work cooperatively within the ISKCON, you will not be pleasing Prabhupada when somebody can say, well, Prabhupada did it. So I can also do the same.
Help me understand again. Prabhupada did what?
Like Prabhupada, he did not, when he tried to work cooperatively with his god brothers,
okay.
they gave him a hard time.
Yes.
They were not interested. So he went and formed his own society.
Right.
He became very successful.
Yes, Prabhupada tried to cooperate with his god brothers. They didn't cooperate. So he started his own institution.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Devotees can say, well, I tried to cooperate with my Guru's institution. It didn't work, so I'll start my own. Yeah, that's what was the fate of that lack of cooperation, in the Gaudiya Math, for example. Everybody, we appreciate all devotees. There's not enough devotees in the world. And at the same time, we have our instructions. ISKCON celebrated 50 years a few years back. And historians of religion have shown that if an institution lasts 50 years, it has a very good chance of surviving. The great majority, 90%, 95% of religious institutions don't survive 50 years. So again, it becomes a question, what do we want to offer to Prabhupada? What do we want to offer to Prabhupada as a legacy of our lives? Srila Prabhupada was quite eager to cooperate with his Guru's institution. But there was no room for no interest. Can we really say that there's no room, there's no opportunity to find some niche in ISKCON where you can serve, be connected, to help in some way? Prabhupada was so very liberal. Could I tell you a story about how liberal Prabhupada was, how broad? So two devotees were arguing about Krishna and Balaram. Have you heard this story? It was Revatinandana and Jamuna. Revatinandana was saying, there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram. And Jamuna was saying, well, Balaram's relationship with Radharani is different than Krishna's relationship. So there's different. No, there's no difference. No, there's difference. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj took the argument to Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, Revati says there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram. Prabhupada said, he is right. But Prabhupada, Jamuna says that they have different relationships with Radharani. She is right. But Prabhupada, they can't both be right. You're right. So can we really say there's no way to find some connection? Yes, there is dissension. Yes, there are in 1978, when Srila Prabhupada had left physically and the GBC was meeting in Mayapur, I was there helping one of the GBC members. And honestly, that group of young men, today, and I look back, I'm not sure if I would have loaned any of them my car keys.
Explain what that means.
What that means is, would I trust them with my valued possession? It's my car. But Prabhupada left the whole movement in their hands. He had no choice. That was all he had. So they made many, many mistakes, huge mistakes, terrible mistakes. And again, it comes down to, do we want to help correct and improve things? Or do we want to just walk away? It's like a marriage, isn't it? Like, you could say, oh, this marriage is too troublesome, I'm walking away. Or you could say, I'm going to try to fix it for the sake of the children. So this was the one thing that Prabhupada asked of us. He said our love would be demonstrated in that way. So we don't have the excuse he had that there was no option but to start his own. We offer respects to all devotees, even if they've started their own thing or whatever, they're following someone else. They're devotees, we love them. It's just how close do we want to be? Just as Narada Muni is praying, Krishna, may I always remember you wherever I go. So we can always pray, may I always stay in the association of devotees who are determined to execute Prabhupada's will. May I always have their association. Tandara Charana Sevi Bhakti Sanivas. May the dust from their lotus feet be my 6 kinds of foodstuffs. That degree of intimacy. Those are the devotees who really inspire, isn't it? The ones who have stayed the course and are doing something within this challenging framework of the organization to make it nice. Prabhupada left a committee in charge of ISKCON. The good thing about a committee is that it won't change anything too quickly, because you need to have so many votes. The bad thing about a committee is that it can't change anything too quickly. So it's like steering the Titanic, nothing happens too fast. Yeah, this was Prabhupada's vision. It was also Bhaktisiddhanta's order which was not executed, correct? Yeah. All right. Anything else? Yes, Antaji. Can we pass the mic back, please?
Thank you for the wonderful poetry, Kalakantha Prabhu. So my question is finding that dichotomy between over-following, which can lead to rules, regulations, rituals, which can lead to being niyamagraha, and under-following rules, regulations, rituals, perhaps, which can maybe stop us from being steady or hinder that steadiness. So where to draw that line?
Right. The answer is in our initiation vows, chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles. Those are the principles. Everything else is a detail. So Rupa Goswami explains that you need to be able to discriminate between principles and details. The details of devotional service are endless. And people can adapt them and follow them to their own individual taste. But the foundational instructions from our Guru Maharaj, 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds, that is the baseline. Right? And some devotees will like pizza, some will like pakoras, and they're both nice. Prabhupada said that some devotees like to eat prasadam, some devotees like to steal prasadam, and they're both nice. being able to see the diversity that's the best way I can answer. When we elevate a detail to a principle, then we're in trouble. Then we begin to commit offenses to devotees. This is why in the ISKCON Disciples course, one of the very first lessons is from Rupa Goswami, that you should never disclose three things: your vows, your Ishtadev, and your guru. Guru. So what is the first thing we always ask in ISKCON when we meet somebody?
Who's your guru?
Who's your guru? You're not supposed to say that. You know why? Because a disciple is supposed to feel, I don't want anyone to know that my guru has initiated somebody as fallen as I am. I don't want to embarrass my guru by having it known that I am his disciple. Keep our own individual vows. I'm chanting 64 rounds. How many are you chanting today? Those are supposed to be private matters. And this way we can have unity and diversity without overemphasizing the details. Last question. Sarvabhauma Prabhu.
Srila Prabhupada wanted people from all around the world to go to Mayapur, but it's mostly attracting Indians and Bengalis. Does the way that we present Krishna consciousness in a place like Mayapur, should it be geared for Westerners at all, or should it be somehow, even though India is the place where following the rules and regulations of the Vedas is respected, is there some way that it could attract more Westerners?
The question is, like in Mayapur, we're building this international center to attract people from all over the world, yet it tends to attract mostly people from Bengal, from India. Is there a way we can present Krishna consciousness to attract people from a wide variety of backgrounds? Okay? So this is Prabhupada's greatness, that he figured out the formula, he cracked the code how to attract people from non-Vedic backgrounds to Krishna consciousness. The answer is to emphasize the holy name. That's the universal meditation for this age. So what will get people to chant will differ from place to place, from situation to situation. So in Mayapur, the kirtan is supposed to go on. The vision Bhaktivinoda had was people from all over the world performing kirtan together. So we can't change the basics of bhakti. But we do know that any sincere seeker anywhere in the world, if they really want to understand God, they'll come to Krishna consciousness. It's just that the people outside of India take more care. Could I tell them about your story? Sarvabhauma Prabhu, just to make the point and then I'll end. I was a bhakti leader in Los Angeles in 1978. And this young man, Bhakta Peter, was coming. He was coming around. He was a teacher in an impersonalist meditation group. But he was getting so very attracted to Krishna consciousness. And so one day I invited Bhakta Peter, why don't you please come to hear this great speaker we're having, Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And so Tamal Krishna Maharaj was speaking on the nectar of devotion. And he said first he was talking about impersonalism. And then he talked about how if somebody blasphemes your guru, you have to either leave that place or cut out his tongue. And so, much to my surprise, Bhakta Peter, who was sitting next to me, he stood up and said, I'm sorry, but you have blasphemed my guru, my impersonalist guru. So I guess I have to do something. So he started walking towards the Vyasa. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was very calm, and he said, if you take one more step, 10 people are going to throw you out the door. He took one more step, and then he got thrown out the door. I think broke a rib. And I thought, well, there goes Bhakta Peter. I'll never see him again. And then a year or two later, I was visiting Dallas, and this devotee comes up to me. Do you remember me? I said, no. I'm Bhakta Peter, and now I'm a disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. My name is Sarvabhauma. So the Westerners take more care, that is a fact. They're tougher cases. Wouldn't you agree, Sarvabhauma Prabhu? Yes. All right, we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From this is a book I wrote called The God Who Dances, which is all 90 chapters of the 10th canto in poetry, like we read this morning. Available through at the bookstalls and through Touchstone Media, my beloved publisher. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.